Hey buddy, welcome back to the channel and to World of Warships. First off, I hope you guys all staying safe wherever you live, and I hope you won't be as affected by this coronavirus. It's a real struggle in most countries, I understand. In Sweden we have pretty much the same exposure as most countries, I think. So, of course, everybody's dealing with the same kind of issues. Enough said about that. Today I thought I'd showcase one of my absolute favorite ships in the game, which is the Tier 8 Premium Japanese Destroyer, the Asashio. And Asashio is one of my favorites since I've been pretty much a DD main the entire time I played this game. Back in closed beta testing, I was sailing the Tier 10 Japanese Shimakase very much, and pretty much fell in love with that ship, so that was absolutely the first line that I grinded in this game, and Shimakase was my first Tier 10. And of course, being one of the originals Tier 10 ships, it has been power crept quite a bit. But it's actually, as you can see from my recent videos, are actually quite potent still. So of course there will be other lines, other nations that will outperform Shimakase in many ways, but it's still a ship to be reckoned with. So Asashio, of course, being a torpedo-based destroyer, is pretty efficient, as you will see in this coming game here. The only thing that you have to think about playing the Shimakase is, of course, we have super deep water torps. So you can't hit any destroyers or cruisers with these torpedoes. You can only hit battleships and carriers. But as you can see, I had pretty good, decent matchmaking. I have 4 battleships that I can engage, and also the carrier, of course. And on shards, for some reason, this cap, which I'm heading towards right now, is usually the number 1 cap for the enemy team to push. And at the same time, the cap up to the north, the C cap, is usually the cap where my team pushes when we spawn on this side where we spawned. So of course, being a torpedo-based destroyer, this is of course the cap that I want to head to, because I want to be on the enemy team's primary flank. I had actually gotten some great support. I have this Cleveland with me inside the cap zone, and this guy is absolutely fearless. He's my hero. So I will compliment him later on in the game, because I really love when cruiser players play like this guy, because he plays aggressive but not stupid. He plays really smart, he uses positioning, and he will play a pretty significant role in the game, and with us securing this enemy capture point pretty much. So I managed to cap, haven't been disturbed by any enemy destroyer yet, which is kind of unusual when you go for this cap. So I only have a whole lot of carrier planes, cruisers and battleships to fend off pretty much. I managed to land a torp on this Duke of York. I see the incoming planes from the carrier, so of course I choose to smoke up, because it's never good to take 4 or 5k salvo from enemy carrier rocket planes, when you can instead choose to use a smoke and save your health pool. And since I had to smoke up anyways, of course it's a great time to try and land some fires on this Duke of York, and getting some fires to stick permanently, since he used the damage con for my torpedo flood. And as you can see, he's struggling quite a bit. He's very low. And that is the thing with Asashio and even the other Japanese torpedo-based destroyer like Shimakaze, Yugomo. They actually have quite potent guns, which many players for some reason choose to not use that much in games. And I'm not saying that you should try and knife fight a Harugumo or a Daring or something. But when you manage to land a torpedo and forced out damage con because of a flood, it's a really great thing to try and use your guns to set some extra perma fires on the ship. Because the alpha damage is pretty fierce on these Japanese torpedo destroyer. And the fire chance is actually quite potent as well. So I don't know how many times I actually managed to land 1 or 2 permafires after a flood on a battleship. And even in these kind of scenarios where I'm up against an enemy Benson, I shouldn't really choose to go into a gunfight with him. But as you can see, my guns deal a whole lot of damage to this American destroyer. Now he out DPMs me, so he has a faster reload than I have. So I shouldn't really try and stick it out and have a prolonged gun duel with a gun-based destroyer. But sneaking in a salvo or 2 here and there can actually mean that you take out that destroyer, because you land a permaflood and he's low and he goes dark or smokes up, and the fire just continue to tick, and boom, he's dead. So use it wisely, but please, for God's sake, use these guns, because they are pretty nasty. Here I'm trying to force out a damage con before my torps will land. So I fire before I smoke up, because I want him to try and fire upon me. This will of course cause him to be perma-spotted for me for at least 20 seconds. Now I'm trying to help out my buddy here in the Cleveland. That has been really great at helping me this entire match. But as you can see, we lost the remainings of our support. For some reason, the battleships and the other cruiser choose to go into the B cap instead of helping me and this Cleveland player out. Which is quite unfortunate, because we don't really have the armor to hold all these ships. And I can definitely not hold all these ships away enough to save the Cleveland. So I'm guessing he will finally go down, but I will try to do as much as I can, pretty much, to these pushing battleships. I can see that he's looking at my Cleveland body. My torps are soon off cooldown. I managed to land one fire, but he's playing it smart. He doesn't repair one fire, which you never should. I'm just looking at my Cleveland body, look if he's able to maybe get away, but he has been surrounded by the enemy cruisers as well. But I'm trying to distract this Duke of York at least, maybe get him to shoot me instead of the Cleveland. So the Cleveland doesn't have to face 3 ships against 1. And I managed to kill the Duke of York off. But unfortunately, the Cleveland goes down to the other 2 ships. But I really want to thank him. I'm writing in the chat as well. I will definitely compliment this guy because he played it really smart. He took a really big risk, but it was a good risk. And he has probably done more than the majority of the team to secure the outcome of this game. So I'm up to 2 kills so far, 1 cap secured, a couple of resets, and pretty much 100,000 damage done. So I can see that the B cap is getting turned, and I see this enemy Benson also pushing into the C cap. A cap. So I'm just trying to land some shots at him. Maybe persuade him to not push in and take this cap back. I knocked out, I think, the rudder on his ship. Trying to land some fire as well. But he managed to go dark, and he will, alongside the other cruisers, unfortunately steal the A cap. But then I instead run into this enemy destroyer, the Lightning, and with that small health pool, he's not really a threat to the great alpha damage of my guns. Now this Tirpitz realized what just happened to his lighting buddy, so he of course get panicked and tried to turn around this island, trying to duke me pretty much, but I realize this and I go the other way around instead. Now he's trying to go bow into my torps, so I wait with my second set, but my first set was quite enough. So I'm pretty low health, and I have a couple of cruisers licking their lips, looking at me from the A cap. So I of course smoke up and go dark, because I'm really low health now, so can't really risk any unnecessary damage. But I have secured the B cap. A friendly is capping the C cap right now, so I'm just trying to back up so I have gun range on these cruisers. Unfortunately, this Italian cruiser smoked up, so I can't really engage him, but otherwise I could actually help this friendly battleship out quite a lot. And that is something that you should always, as I said before, trying to do, because these guns are pretty potent fire starters. So if you are smoked up, or you can see that the enemy is focused on another ship, and it's a pretty minimal risk you take, you should definitely try to help out with your damage and fires as well. And the Asashio, as I said before, is one of my favorite ships, and one of the other favorite ships I have is the Yugomo. which is a tier 9 tech tree ship. And that is quite similar to Asashio in many ways. I actually have the same captain on both ships. The only difference pretty much is that Yugumo has of course normal torpedoes, but it doesn't have smoke, which you get in the Asashio. So that was the 5th kill and QWACKEN unleashed in this game. And it was a pretty decent game. 3 fires started, 8 torpedoes, 125k damage, 5 kills, a couple of cap resets, and 1 full cap. So pretty decent result. I want to highlight this Cleveland player as well. Give him a compliment again, because I think he was one of the key players in this match actually. And here you can see I had 109 hits with my main battery in this Japanese torpedo boat, which did about 20k damage and then some extra 6k because of the fires as well. So looking at my build, if we're starting off with modules, I have main armament in the first slot. Second slot is propulsion, because you do sit in smoke firing your guns now and then, and if torps show up you want to be moving quite quick. In the third slot is the new torpedo module that makes these torpedoes quite fast, which is absolute one of the better ones for the third slot. And I can actually mention that I have the 20k torpedoes on my Asashio, partly because I do want to be able to share this captain with my Yugumo, and if I would have the captain skill that shortens the range of your torpedoes but up the acceleration on them, my torpedoes on my Yugumo would go very short. And of course it's actually quite funny sometimes when the carrier gets spotted early game or mid game and he's within 20 kilometers of you. You can actually send your torps, because usually carrier players are really lazy. They like to sit still pretty much in the same spot all game. And then you can actually dev strike him from like 19 kilometers away, because he's too lazy to actually move his ship when he gets spotted. So that is another good reason for the 20 km torps. But also of course to be able to switch the commander between this premium and the tier 9 tech tree Yugumo, because they do share the same skills, as I will show soon. And fourth slot is also propulsion, same reason as before, and of course concealment in the fifth slot. So looking at the consumables, well, actually not much to say here. I mean, this is a tier 8 premium destroyer. If you don't run premium on all your consumables, you're doing it wrong. I'm sorry. You should definitely afford to run premium consumables on a premium ship. And you can't really choose anything else than these consumables that I have chosen. So it's repair, smoke, speed boost, and torp reload booster, which is a amazing consumable for this ship, and as well for the Yugumo, because I do run my Yugumo with torp reload booster instead of smoke. I know it's quite a risk, considering you don't have any AA, and if there's a carrier in the game you are pretty much fucked, but the risk outweigh the reward, or wait, the reward outweigh the risk in that situation, because having torp reload on your Yugumo makes that ship a real monster when it comes to damage, which I have showcased quite a few times on my channel. And if you want to check out those games, you can just click on that little icon in the top right corner and you will get those games as well. Now looking at the captain build, and as I mentioned before, this is the same captain I have on my Yugomo. And of course, starting out with priority targets as the first skill, that is pretty much a given. I have this as my first skill on every ship in the game. That said, I don't play any carriers. So every other ship class in the game I have priority target. It's such an important skill for 1 point, because it doesn't matter if you play a cruiser, battleship or destroyer, you always want to know how many ships are actually focusing you. If you're playing a cruiser or destroyer, you know when to smoke up or disengage when that number goes up. When you're playing battleship, you can know when you get torped by enemy destroyers by just watching that number. It's such an important skill. Number 2 skill is of course always last stand. On any destroyer you play, you must always use last stand as your second captain skill. Third, I'm actually going with the superintendent first on this ship, since you get both smoke, speed boost and another one of the torp reload boosters, which is really valuable on this ship. Same as on the Yugomo, of course. The fourth skill is of course concealment expert. It's a given. You must have this as your first tier 4 skill. After that, I will go for survivability expert actually first, because I do want that extra HP to be able to survive longer. If you make 1 or maybe 2 mistakes in a game, it doesn't have to mean that you get killed. So this helps, of course. The higher your tiers you have this skill, the more health pool you get. So it's a really great, valuable skill. After that, I would actually go for radiolocation next. Because even though Adrenaline Rush is a great skill as well, building up your captain skills, the radiolocation is such important skill if you learn how to use it. That's a key thing. If you know how to use radiolocation, you can tell when to push, when to fall back. It can save you from so many disgusting situations, and it can also give you dev strikes on different ships. So I would definitely take radiolocation before. And lastly, of course, Adrenaline Rush, which is great on pretty much every ship class in the game, but of course most so on destroyers. The more damage you take, the more dangerous you get. So that was my captain skill build. And with this, I want to thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I hope you guys stay safe in these corona times. Please leave a like and a comment on the video if you have any questions about the game or the build. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really helps a lot. And I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Bye bye.